You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. It's the voice of 91 Reasons. I'm sitting out here. I'm alone in the Cafe 80s. It's very late at night. And this is one of those episodes that's been brewing in my head for at least a month or longer. And that's generally if I'm not reviewing a movie, but just like an esoterical idea. It takes a while because I'm not sure how to approach it or where I'm going to go. And you know what? I'm still not sure where I'm going on this one. Other than there are things that have bugged me that like in each of themselves, they're not really a whole episode. They're not, an hour or 45 minutes. But if I cram them all together, I think I can eke out a full episode. So, hey, indulge me on this one, huh? Because sometimes those indulgent ones are the most fun. Sorry if I'm hitting the microphone there. It's a brand new microphone. I'm still getting used to using it. But, okay, I'm going to start by, in 2013, George Lucas gave a speech at the USC School of Cinematic Arts, and then Spielberg basically did the same thing. So they both agreed. Now, this is 2013. This is Spielberg and Lucas, arguably the architects of the modern-day blockbuster or the modern-day franchise, These are the guys. These are the guys that I worshipped like rock stars when I was a teenager. Everybody else had a poster of Bon Jovi on the wall, and I had a poster of George Lucas. It's just, I idolize the man because he created a whole world, and then he used that creation to launch ILM and to further film and special effects and pushing the envelope. And so when two guys like this, Spielberg and Lucas, decide to say something that they feel is important, you listen. And I remember reading this in 2013. This 4 years ago now. I remember reading it and thinking, oh no, they've gone around the bend, those guys. They're getting a little long in the tooth, because here's what they said. I'm going to read part of it. This is from The Hollywood Reporter. Steven Spielberg on Wednesday predicted an implosion in the film industry is inevitable. An implosion in the film industry is inevitable, whereby a half dozen or so $250 million movies flop at the box office and alter the industry forever. What comes next, or even before then, will be price variances at movie theaters where you're going to have to pay $25 for the next Iron Man, but only $7 to see Lincoln, because Lincoln was this close to becoming an HBO movie. And of course, Lincoln was a big hit with Daniel Day-Lewis. It's a fantastic film. George Lucas agreed that massive changes are afoot, including film exhibition morphing somewhat into a Broadway play model, whereby fewer movies are released, they stay in theaters for a year, and ticket prices are much higher. His prediction prompted Spielberg to recall that his 1982 film, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, stayed in theaters for a year and 4 months. The two legendary filmmakers, along with CNBC anchor Julia Boorstin and Microsoft president of Interactive Entertainment Don Matrick, were speaking at the University of Southern California as part of the festivities, blah, 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 blah. Lucas and Spielberg told students that they are learning about the industry at an extraordinary time of upheaval, where even proven talents find it difficult to get movies into theaters. Some ideas from young filmmakers are too fringy for the movies, Spielberg said. That's the danger, and there's eventually going to be an implosion or a big meltdown. There's going to be an implosion where 3 or 4 or maybe even half a dozen mega-budget movies are going to go crashing into the ground, and that's going to change the paradigm. Lucas lamented the high cost of marketing movies and the urge to make them for the masses while ignoring niche audiences. He called cable television much more adventurous than film nowadays. Lucas says, I think eventually the Lincolns, meaning Spielberg's Lincoln movie, will go away and they're going to be on television, as mine almost was, Steven Spielberg interjected. This close, ask HBO, this close. We're talking Lincoln and Red Tails. We barely got them into theaters. You're talking about Steven Spielberg and George Lucas can't get their movie into a theater. And then Spielberg joked, I did get more people into Lincoln than you got into Red Tails. Spielberg added that he had to co-own his own studio in order to get Lincoln into theaters. They praised, at the time, pretty new, Netflix, Borston asked Spielberg if he planned to make any original content for the internet streamer, and Spielberg said, I have nothing to announce. Now, we all know that in the years since, Netflix has become a powerhouse. You know, they've got big action stars, big box office stars. Will Smith is doing a movie for Netflix called Bright. You know, they had a huge, massive hit with Stranger Things and House of Cards. And HBO has Game of Thrones. Now, I consider Game of Thrones to be the finest television show on right now. And maybe the finest show that's ever been on TV because, and this is what we'll get to, they don't talk down to their audience. They expect you to keep up, right? But when you look at Spielberg and Lucas's prediction back in 2013, now, I don't believe we're ever going to get to the tiered pricing where to see a brand new movie, you're going to pay $25, and to see an art house movie, you're going to pay $7. Because right now it's flip-flopped. You got to drive middle of nowhere to a out of the way theater to see a small movie, and it's going to cost you a premium. And if you want to see, the latest superhero movie, go down to the local theater, and it's playing on 9 screens or more, 12 screens. And hey, I'm old. I was around when they built those megaplexes, and part of the allure, because we kept asking, why are you building so many screens? And they always said in the industry and the media, well, that's so that we can showcase some of the smaller movies. And that went, as soon as they figured out that superhero movie X is going to garner way more ticket sales than some smaller movie about sipping tea. The sipping tea movie is out, no matter how good the sipping tea movie is, right? So I don't think we're going to get to that tiered pricing. I think the model that's going to work, or that they're going to find has success, is first-run movies on pay-per-view at a premium. And what I mean by that is, let's see, what's a big movie coming out? Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 is coming out next winter, right? So you could go to the movies and pay $12.50 a ticket to see Deadpool 2, or you can buy it on pay-per-view for $50 opening weekend. They have talked about that. The theater owners, of course, are completely against it because it's gonna bite into ticket sales like nothing you've ever seen. Because, okay, example, I just took my kids to see Spider-Man Homecoming. 3 tickets, $36. Popcorn and a drink, another $15 or $18. So I could have spent $50, my whole family would have watched the movie, and we could have had spaghetti watching it. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that model would work. Now, it's only going to be for people who have a really nice sound system, a really nice TV. Now, I don't have a sound system that I can barely hear it over the air conditioner when it gets hot. But if they were to go to that model, I would upgrade, because they have been doing day and date pay-per-view on smaller movies, right? But they still haven't managed to get that giant marquee one. They need to get a Marvel movie, a DC movie, a big Disney movie. You know what I mean? Something that you go, oh my God, wait a minute, $50? We might consider this. We might stay home for that. So the tiered pricing thing, I think, is still pie in the sky. But you look at what else they said. What else Spielberg and Lucas said in that. And they said it's going to take, and Spielberg, the high number was 6. It's going to take 6 high-profile, big-budget, and we're talking $250, $300 million movie with another $200 million in advertising. And they're going to tank. They're going to tank in the biggest freaking way. And you know what? The writing's on the wall. It's going to happen. That Tom Cruise Mummy movie, that God, that movie tanked. World of Warcraft, yes, I know it did well in China, but here in America, it tanked. They keep putting out these movies, and it's staggering what they cost. Staggering what they're willing to pay for these movies. And then they come out and they tank. What was that movie? Crimson Peak with Guillermo del Toro. He directed it. I mean, you could go up to 10 people on the street and ask them about it. And it was directed by Guillermo del Toro. It starred Tom Hiddleston, who's arguably, because he played Loki, he's a big actor, and he was in that Kong Skull Island movie. But you go up to him and you go, do you ever heard of a movie called Crimson Peak? And they're going to go, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's a massive movie that tanked, man. It made $0 at the box office. So this is going to happen. We are going to see big mega pictures just fizzle. Nobody shows up at the box office. You know, and the studio is going to come up with every kind of excuse in the book, right? Hey, I went and saw Batman versus Superman. You know, I knew the reviews were bad. I knew it was somber, and you know what? I went because, yeah, God darn it, I love Batman. Batman Summer 1989 was some of the best times I ever had, and like an addict, I am chasing that dragon. I am chasing that bat. You know, so Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice, it got a little bit of a pass from me. But when you look at what it cost versus what it made, it barely scratched the surface of. It was supposed to be one of those billion-dollar movies. You know, most people, how about this? Most people aren't even aware that a fifth Pirates of the Caribbean nightmare movie came out. That movie came and went so fast, its skull earringed head was spinning. Nobody went and saw that movie. And you know what? I'm a big fan of those movies. I saw all 4 of them in the theater. By the 5th time, you know what? I'm done. And if I'm done, I ain't taking my kids. And if the kids don't go, then the box office is down. You know, everybody thought Disney was in, and this, listen, there is a precedence for that, because everybody thought Disney was infallible. They had a huge run. Look at that run of Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, freaking Lion King, and then Pocahontas, and then Hunchback, and then Treasure Planet, and Atlantis, and Home on the Range. And suddenly, the entire hand-drawn animation wing of Disney, an industry they created, everybody gets pink slips and is told to go home. And it wouldn't resurface until The Princess and the Frog years later, and even that didn't do enough to warrant. We haven't seen another one. Everything's computer now. The hand-drawn cartoon art form's dead. So there is precedence for, like, look, this is going to happen. Right now, superhero movies are riding high, man. But I'm telling you, there's going to be the inevitable stumble. I'm not trying to be the doomsayer. I'm trying to say that eventually we're all going to get wise. And the episode that I'm doing was not really about the implosion of the box office. Because you know what? To me, I don't care what a movie makes. Some of my favorite movies bombed at the box office. I love Count of Monte Cristo with Jim Caviezel, and it made 25 cents at the box office. So box office and critical adulation means nothing. Everybody's got their own tastes. Everybody's got their movies they consider it's a guilty pleasure. No, if you like it, it's your movie. It's okay. Schlock has its place. And some of them aren't schlock. Count of Monte Cristo is not schlock by any stretch. I'm one of like 10 of us that like John Carter. You know, that movie tanked. Prince of Persia, tanked. Battleship, tanked. So I'm making my prediction right now. And the prediction is that Justice League movie coming out this fall is going to tank. Hey, I would love to be wrong. I'm going to go see it. I love Batman. Hell, I love Wonder Woman, Superman, The Flash, Cyborg. Not so sure about Steppenwolf. And I'm not really a fan of Aquaman, but Jason Momoa seems to be like a really fun guy. I saw him at Comic-Con. I'm going to go see it. It's got Joss Whedon on it. It's got a little bit of Zack Snyder before he had to bail out due to a family emergency. But I don't have high hopes for it. And I don't have high hopes for it because we as an audience, we as the movie ticket buyers, we have sent a signal to the studio. And the signal that we sent to them was, we don't give a crap about story. We don't give a crap if it makes sense. We just want to see the things that we like on the screen. And that pains me to say it, because I've written movie scripts, just for myself. I shopped one around. I was told it was way too expensive to be made into a movie, which I thought was a compliment. But when you're a writer, when you're thinking of story, you agonize over it making sense, over things happening in a way that the audience goes, oh man, A, I didn't see that coming, and B, all the clues were there and I should have. You know what I'm going to say, right now? What's the gold standard for movie scripts? Back to the Future. Everything is set up in the first 30 minutes and everything is paid off at the end. There are no loose ends in Back to the Future. There are a ton of movies like that, where everything is set up, then the story kicks in, then we have a finale and a resolution using something that we've learned at the beginning. That's good drama. That's how it works out. Right? And yet, we, the audience members, have basically told the studios and the writers, just whatever. Just whatever. Whatever you come up with is fine, as long as it's loud and has crashing cars and fire and a lot of orange and blue on the screen. We're okay with it. God, this is the crux of the episode, because this is the part that makes me so ill, that we're willing to just accept crap. Like, oh, Batman and Superman are fighting, and we have to save Martha. Why did you say that name? Like, that's it? That's the best you guys could come up with for them to stop fighting? It's Batman and Superman, two of the most iconic characters to ever grace any kind of pop culture medium. And that's the best you could come up with? They couldn't reach a standstill and Superman look at Batman and go, this is stupid. We're on the same side. We are fighting for the same thing. Now let's go help me save my mom. And Batman would go, you know what? Since I'm the world's greatest detective, I figured it out half an hour ago. I've just been trying to find a way to get you to stop kicking me. And instead, it hinges on the fact that Martha Wayne and Martha Kent have the same first name? Oh, come on. The screenwriter ought to be smacked across the face for that kind of crap. And yet, gets a pass. Because who cares, right? Oh, Jeff, it's just a movie, Jeff. It's just a movie. What are you worried about? What am I worried about? I'm worried about... I treasure writing. When I sit down to write something, I want it to be as good as it could possibly be. When I'm writing my 6-key novels, I will deliberately write my characters into a corner that they can't get out of. And then I will stop writing for 6 weeks until I figure out how to get them out of it in a logical way that calls back something that's already been established in the story. That's writing, man. And yet we just shrug and go, yeah, whatever. Wait, what? I mean, I sat through Battleship, and it's dumb to beat down on a movie that tanked, but it's the same plot of Battlestar Galactica, where when the aliens attack, they have to use ships that have been used as museums and taken back out on the water, as if they're still operational. Like, they're just waiting for someone to turn the key. Prince of Persia, I sat through that movie too. And how does the good king get killed? Have you seen this movie? I'm going to save you the effort. He gets killed by putting on a poisoned robe. No, I wasn't stuttering. I didn't misspeak. A poisoned robe. He puts the robe on and it burns him. It's not like they trick him into drinking something or they shoot a dart at his neck. No, it's a poisoned robe. And I don't care if it's factually correct. On screen, you have to bend reality so that the audience goes, oh, cool. Yeah, I get that. Lazy screenwriting. And here, my thesis, I'm going to go back in time here, folks. My thesis, the reason we have this, because for a long time, like every movie you went to, unless it was stupid, and there's a lot of stupid movies where, you know, okay, I get so angry. I mean, can you tell? Jeff, it's just a movie. Shut up, man. Ocean's 11. I love Ocean's 11. It's a great movie. The dialogue's crisp. The heist is really cool. And yet, in the end, the cops come out of the vault carrying the bags of money, which turn out to be pornography flyers. And yet, there's no scene of them taking the pornography flyers into the vault. Matt Damon and George Clooney are rappelling without... The bags are empty. And when somebody asked the director, he said, well, we figured people would just have such a good time they wouldn't notice. What? The whole plot of the movie hinges on the heist. And the whole point of the movie is you set up a vault that cannot be opened, treasure that cannot be gotten to, and in the end, they figure out how to get it, and you go, man, that's great. And even better is you have them plan it to the nth degree, and then the plan goes wrong. That's drama. That's movies. And yet we just have these movies where they just don't care. Plot devices come out of nowhere. Characters do things that are completely illogical. And here's my reason. The reason is Lost. The television show Lost, which I watched every single freaking episode of. Because they kept setting up mystery after mystery after mystery. Even more than the show I watched before that, The X-Files. You know, by the end, The X-Files had solved everything. The truth had been brought to... It wasn't out there anymore. It was brought to them. You know, Mulder's sister came back at the end. And no one even remembers it because no one pays attention. And Lost had all these crazy things. The polar bear, the black mist, the man in white, the cabin where the guy was screaming as a ghost, the hatch, all the modules, the Dharma Initiative, time travel, the bus, the beer, and Ben Linus, one of the greatest characters I've ever seen in a show, turned a donkey wheel and moved the island. Not Penny's boat. You know? You are, everybody. Drive Shaft. I watched every episode of Lost. And they lied to us. They told us all along that they had a concrete answer for every mystery they brought up. And by the time that finale unspooled, I totally understood what was happening. I'm not stupid. But when Jack spent 10 minutes trying to pull the plug on a hot tub, I said, we're not going to get the answers that we were promised. And we were all okay with it. And Damon Lindelof, who wrote it, shrugged and went, look, the audience doesn't care, man. As long as the action's good and we keep adding mysteries and maybe solve a couple, we'll throw them a bone. But they're still going to watch. And we did. Tuned in week after week, even when there was an episode about Jack's tattoo. Right? Oh my God. And the statue with 6 toes. Like everything. And they just were like, yeah. It was the biggest middle finger to an audience I've ever seen. And Lindelof went on to write Prometheus. Another movie that was just a big middle finger. That makes no sense. Alien Covenant. I just watched it. It makes no sense. The characters don't act in any kind of way that a human would act. They go out onto an alien planet. First off, it's a complete remake of Alien. They just added Covenant instead of Nostromo. And they come out of hypersleep. There's a distress call of some sort or a mysterious call. They go down to a planet. They find the exact same freaking ship. They go on and everybody gets killed and turned into aliens, rip off everything. What? Is that what we've come to? I'm sitting here complaining about having the movies make sense. Like, if you go onto an alien planet, wear a spacesuit. Don't breathe in things that then, turn you inside out. I don't know. Is that Space 101? And the stupid nonsense with the robot. I'm so sick of him. He plays the flute for 20 minutes in the friggin' movie. And then the biggest, I'm going to spoil that for you because if you don't, turn it off if you don't want it spoiled. But when David comes out at the end and you're like, well, all he did was switch clothes. We know it's the bad guy because if it's the good guy, the story has nowhere to go. And ththese movies, here's the thing. Prometheus and Covenant are prequels to the 1979 Alien. Now, you can harp all you want about how, the technology looks so amazing compared to 1979. Well, okay, maybe I'll even give you an excuse. Maybe the Nostromo was because they're oil, basically it's an oil rig in space. They're roughnecks earning a check. And the Covenant is colonists. Maybe they don't get the good technology. I'll buy that. Oh yeah, this is the Covenant, man. You're thinking the Nostromo. Nostromo's like out of date, man. They're sending that thing out, with the worst day. They're sending it out with the Zune, not an iPod, right? I get that. The problem is, this movie has to match up to Alien. If it's a freaking prequel, the xenomorph has to match up, and why, and how. And if we take Covenant at face value, David engineered the xenomorph. He had all these colonists to work on, one after another, disposable human lives, and at the end when he regurgitates the facehugger eggs, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. How did that actor do that without saying to Ridley Scott, are you an idiot? This is what you want to do? So he's going to what? Crash on LV-426? They have to match up if it's a prequel. You can't just say, well, no one remembers, because 40 years ago when there was no home video, sure, make it up. I don't remember. Do you? No, we can't watch the movie. It's only on once a year. Oh, I guess it matches up. No, I can put them on TVs next to each other and watch them simultaneously, you studio a-holes. It has to match up. Or it's not a prequel. It's just another movie. But you're telling me it's a prequel to Alien. Are we stupid? Yes, they think we're stupid. Because we buy it anyways. There's my problem in a nutshell. I sound like Kathy Bates in Misery. He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodle car. You have to do better. I finally get what she was talking about. I finally get it. I had to become an adult to get it. But they put out these movies, and they don't care if it matches up or if it's in continuity. They don't care. Because they figure, who cares? Well, I do. There are writers that care. I'm sure Joss Whedon cares. Lindelof doesn't. Akiva Goldsman doesn't. All they care about is the check. Alex Kurtz and Roberto Orsi. Those guys are responsible for some of the worst, highest grossing movies of the last 2 decades. Transformers, Star Trek, you name it. These 2 guys have had their hands in it. And they write schlock. They write pure schlock. That Star Trek reboot, Spock comes through the time door, and there's Nero waiting for him. But they don't even have a scene. I guess it's in the deleted scenes, but it doesn't count. Nero's been waiting 50 years for Spock to just show up. And, you know, I'm guilty. I get so caught up in, you know, big budget movies. And here's the thing. Alien Covenant looked gorgeous. I love expensive, Prometheus, expensive looking movies. Charlize Theron and Numi Rapace. I got the girl with the dragon tattoo actresses mixed up. Numi Rapace in those shiny space suits. I mean, that total badass. I love all of that. But it has to make sense. And then, here, I'll throw you a bone for the average moviegoer. When that ship's falling on her, just run to the left or run to the right. They did the same thing in Game of Thrones. Move back and forth, moving target. If you stay in one spot, you're going to get killed. But who cares, right? The audience doesn't care. That's what the studios say. In Weekend at Bernie's, boy, there's a leap I took. Hey, you know what? I'll buy it. He dies, and they carry his body around all day for like a weekend. That's hysterical. What I don't buy is the sequel, where the body gets up and dances around to voodoo music, and there's treasure, and you're like, no, he would be rotting by now. But that's a silly little movie. The movies I'm talking about take themselves very seriously. Very seriously. So when they do these kind of things that you just, like, you go, what? In Prometheus, that guy takes his helmet off and, like, stares at the talking flower thing that spits at him. You're like, who would do that? I go to some of my friends' house. I don't want to touch anything. They're not the best housekeepers. I might catch something. You don't know who I'm talking about. I'm not really talking about anybody, but you get the point, right? I wouldn't go to an alien planet and take my helmet off. I've only flown to Seattle, and I know I wouldn't fly to an alien planet and take my helmet off. Give me a freaking break. Characters should act like human beings and make natural human being choices. And they figure, I'm telling you, going back to Lost, they just don't care. They're so busy setting up there. And you know what? You could just, you just want to sit down with all the heads of the studios and go, look, the Marvel Cinematic Universe works for Marvel. It doesn't have to work for you. You can just make good movies. They don't have to connect. They don't have to star everybody. They can just be good movies. Wonder Woman was a pretty good movie up until the ridiculous finale where she was fighting, you know, a god on a tarmac. Up till that, everything was really well done. I enjoyed the hell out of it. But you don't have to connect it. Just make a good movie. The biggest crime the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever did was only doing one Captain America movie set in World War II, because they could have done 10 of those. Those would have been great. We got one. Okay, thanks. We don't get any more. Thankfully, some of them tank so bad it kills the franchise. Covenant should have killed the franchise of Alien. Instead, I think they're working on 3 or 4 more. But Covenant should have put the nail in that coffin. They should just go, look, we're done, Ridley. Move on. Just go screw up Blade Runner now. Which, you know, they're going to. God, I want Blade Runner to be good. Oh, God, I do. But you know it's going to suck. You know it's going to have over-the-top action, which Blade Runner doesn't have any. It's going to be way ridiculous with special effects. And and CGI up the yin yang, and it's, and Harrison Ford gleefully killing off Deckard. Like, I don't know, but I'm guessing that's what he does. Oh, bad writing killed Terminator Genesis. That last Terminator movie, I only saw it because Jim Cameron told me to, and said it was the natural and worthy Terminator 3. And instead, what I got was one of the most convoluted, dumb movies I have ever seen in my lifetime. With gaps in logic that defy description. where a T-800 Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator is sent farther back in time to protect Sarah Connor as a little girl. Except we never find out who sent him. We never see that story. We see one or two shots and you're like, no. If somebody sent Frankenstein back in time, we need to know who did it. Are you kidding me? Nobody knows? And they're like, well, it'll be in the sequel. Well, there's no sequel. So they just write crap. They just write whatever they want, throw it against the wall, throw in some effects, and go, the public will eat it up. In this case, we didn't, because word got out that it was bad. They turned John Connor into a Terminator. What? John Connor is the savior of the human race. He would never willfully or happily become a Terminator. That's ridiculous. That's completely ridiculous. Did you even see Terminator Genesis? If you didn't, don't. If you did, you need to go to the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and wipe it out of your head. They make Skynet an operating system where they go, it'll sync up your phone and your social media. Like, we already have all that. Did anybody stop in the writing process and go, this theory in the movie we already have? Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I'm saying, like, it's already here, so the audience will see it and go, oh my God, Skynet already exists. No, we didn't do that, dude. What we did was we went, that's the best you can come up with. Skynet's an operating system like Windows. Plus, for a good portion of the movie, stay with me on this one. For a good portion of the movie, Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, played by two different actors, two new actors, are being chased by John Connor, their son. So, and the chase goes on over time frames. It's stupid. And I was fascinated watching it because all they have to do is look at each other, look at evil John Connor, and just say to themselves, we're never going to sleep together. And then John Connor would vanish because he wouldn't have a father. Like, this is screenwriting 101, man. And they just expect you to go, well, no one will notice. It's Arnie. Arnie's back. Hey, I love Arnie. But everybody in the whole project of Terminator Genesis was phoning it in. And I thought Salvation was bad. Like, Salvation's really bad. But Genesis is just insulting. And that's what I'm talking about. They figure we just won't care. And that really bums me out. Because the movies that I grew up with all made sense. And the bad guys were undone by the very thing they were trying to accomplish. You know? If Belloc doesn't go after the Ark, Belloc lives. Belloc dies because he opens the Ark. Mola Ram is done in by Kali, the very religion he has been sacrificing people to. Donovan drinks from the wrong grail. If he'd just stayed in the car, he'd be alive. You see a pattern here, folks? The bad guy is undone by the very thing he was trying to do. That's good drama. Good screenwriting. where you go, oh, there he goes, you got what's coming to him. And instead, movies have just been reduced to like putting a quarter in and watching a Mortal Kombat game where two characters just beat the hell out of each other against a very beautiful computer-generated background, and then the credits roll. And that's all we get. Yeah, I remember I liked Logan, but even Logan was like, hey guys, how depressing do you want your superhero movies? Okay, I guess they're really depressing. When Professor X gets iced by fake Wolvie lying in bed, I felt like, wow, that's hardcore, man. I felt emotional. And that's what you're supposed to. That's what these movies are supposed to do. Now, I didn't care for the whole Beyond Thunderdome, the kids are in charge latter half of the movie. But up until then, it was pretty good. I know people are going, Jeff, they're just movies. But this is what I do, man. This is what irks me. This is why when I write stuff, it has to make sense. Or you just stop and you rip the page out and you go, no, we're going to start again. And here's what happens. Know this for a fact. They buy these properties or they put these movies into production without a script. They just start. They build a few sets, they work on costumes, and the script will come somewhere down the line. That's where Dead Man's Chest came into being. That's where At World's End, those were made during the writer's strike. So they're Ted Talley, I think his name is, and his writing partner, they weren't even around to screw that one up. That one got screwed up on its own. And I think the first Pirates movie is pretty good. Barbossa is undone by the very treasure he was trying to get. The second and third one, couldn't tell you. Completely batshit crazy with Adidalia, whatever her name is, the woman of the sea turning giant, and Davy Jones's heart, and I don't know what the hell's going on. Just stuff on a screen. If you want to see a textbook example of what I'm talking about, where the studio basically said, we don't care. Just finish the movie and come home. Watch, excuse me, I'm sorry. Watch the remake of The Stepford Wives. In the original Stepford Wives, these guys move to the countryside and everybody's wife is completely perfect. Dinner's on time, sex is great, never a complaint, and this guy realizes they're replacing all the women with robots. And you're like, oh, that's hardcore, man. Right? And drugs. In the remake, halfway through the movie, Nicole Kidman and Matthew Broderick discover the secret of Stepford. And they see Nicole Kidman's robot double that's going to replace her if this plan goes into motion. But at the end of the movie, all of the wives are human, but they've been given cybernetic abilities. Like Bette Midler can mow the lawn with her feet, and one of the women has an ATM in her belly, which just begs the question, like, she's not printing the money, is she? Does he get up in the morning and load her full of money so that when there's a party he can do the parlor trick? Again, it's one of those things where it sounds funny on paper. And Frank Oz directed that movie. I like Frank Oz, but he was railroaded. But it's one of those things, again, it sounds good on paper, you put it up in the screen, and nobody at any point said, this makes no sense. No. They're just happy to get something, throw it up on the screen, and be done with it. And movies are so much better than that. We have movies that are classics, that are so good. But this race to get them out, get them on the screen, sell some pop vinyls, sell some Hot Topic merchandise, trumps everything. Gleefully trumps a working script. What's his name who wrote and directed Suicide Squad. He's the one who directed Bright as well. I think he wanted to rewrite that a few more times. The studio said, no, we're going to shoot. You need to get in here and start shooting. You're like, the guy's not ready. Well, you better be ready. The script's not ready. It's finally ready. Are you kidding me? A movie with that many characters and that big a budget, and you're just going to wing it? That's stupid. Plus, I had a whole conversation with Austin about Suicide Squad. The movie defies logic anyways. Harley Quinn is not a supervillain. She's a sidekick. So make a movie with the Joker where Harley Quinn is there. But to make it all about Harley Quinn, you're like, why would they break her out of prison and give her a bat? I can hit harder with a bat than her. Any guy in the street could. Again, what's the motto of the show? Review the movie you got, not the movie you wanted. But in the end, if the movie had been about confronting the Joker and stopping the Joker from blowing up all of Gotham, like he's gone round the bend, he's got his finger on a kill switch, Batman can't do anything because he'll release it and the bomb will go off. And there's nothing we can do. Wait, there is. His girlfriend's in prison. We get her, and she'll talk him off the ledge. Now we got a movie, because imagine that climax of the Joker completely out of his mind with his button on the trigger, a finger on the trigger, and Harley Quinn, Mr. J, like seducing him, knowing that if she fails, they're all dead. Oh man, that's a movie. Not whatever the crap that priestess, I don't even know. All of a sudden, here's the thing. A lot of these superhero movies are rooted in some form of reality, and because of the need to put more and more characters, suddenly they got aliens and gods. Now, I'm not complaining because I think the Thor character works great in the context of the Avengers. His second movie, I want my money back. The third one looks pretty good, but they have to put these new layers on it. Aliens and supernatural powers, and I'm sure a ghost is going to be in here at some point, right? And the tough part would be juggling all of that, and yet we're at a point where nobody cares. The characters can do whatever they want. They can survive helicopter crashes, buildings coming down on them, and not in clever ways, because if it's clever, I'm all about it. Hell yeah. Show me something I've never seen before. Show me him getting out of a scrape that you go, man, that's friggin' awesome. Such as Spider-Man Homecoming. I thought that movie was fantastic. That sequence at the Washington Monument was fantastic. It's exactly what I would have written, because that's the way I write. Logical. The elevator's going down. He doesn't have enough momentum to get it. He slingshots around the helicopter. I mean, all of that's great. It has physics. It has logic. It's all great. And what's my one complaint about Spider-Man Homecoming? Because I thought it was fantastic. I thought Michael Keaton's performance was stellar. The scene between him and Peter Parker in the car on the way to Homecoming was fantastic. One of the best superhero scenes I've ever seen, with nary a superhero suit in sight. So what's the problem, Jeff? Well, the problem is Sony had a solidly good Spider-Man movie on their hands. A really good one. As good as Spider-Man 2, which I think is the highlight of that series. And yet, when it came time to market it, they put a scene in the trailer that's not in the movie. Specifically put it in the trailer of Spider-Man and Iron Man swinging through what looks like New York City. Well, guess what? He doesn't even get to New York in this movie. He spends all of his time in the suburb of Queens, running out of things to shoot webs on and having to run through yards and backyards and houses. That's part of the plot. So to see this really slick manufactured scene, It looked like, oh, well, that'll be the end of the movie. That's cool. It's not even in the movie. And they admitted they had created the scene specifically for the trailer. Hey, guess what, folks? That's called false advertising. Oh, Jeff, you're just being ridiculous. It's just a movie. No. The trailer is supposed to tell me what I'm going to see in the movie. If you want me to make a trailer that has nothing to do with the movie and yet contains all these amazing scenes, hey, do that then. Have a building fall on Spider-Man. Have him get incinerated. And then we'll go, man, I got to see that movie. I got to see how he gets out of that. Oh, and it's just a trailer. It's not in the movie. What? Oh, now we're into Rogue One territory. Watch the Rogue One trailer. Jyn running onto that gantry towards a TIE fighter. That's not in the movie. Jyn turning around, looking as if she's making a choice between furthering the rebellion or joining the Empire. The scene that got me into the theater is not in the movie. I am calling bullshit on that. That is shenanigans of the highest order. And it shouldn't be tolerated. There should be, part of the MPAA should be, we watch the trailer and you are deliberately deceiving the audience. Because, there's a little box that says rated PG-13 for mild drug use and, soft, occasional nudity or whatever. Okay, you need to tell me that the characters might choke out in the movie, but there's nothing to tell me that the scene that I'm going to see is not in the movie. That's a red flag. That I cannot believe there isn't a bigger uproar about it. Because here's the thing, there can't be a big uproar about it because those of us who bring it up are labeled crazy. You're a crazy man, Jeff. You're just harping on something. It's a funny scene in the trailer. What's the big deal? The big deal is it sets a precedent. And between that and Rogue One, and God knows what about Last Jedi, maybe none of that's in the movie. If the trailer's not going to show us scenes that are actually in the movie, then it has to go out of its way to tell us that this is not in the movie. Robin Williams, the Toys trailer. There have been trailers where it's just, hey, we're just having a good time. The trailer for Wild Wild West featured the flying bike that at the time was not in the movie. Audiences loved the flying bike so much, they stuck it in the movie. Didn't save the movie, but at least they had the class to take something that was just in the trailer and put it actually in the friggin' movie. And now we're at a point where, no, it was just for the trailer. What? So next May, when Infinity Gauntlet, Jim Infinity War movie comes out, and we finally get to see a trailer, it may contain scenes not in the movie? Is that really what you want us to think? And again, I'll go back to it. Sony had a hit on their hands. It didn't need that scene. Tom Holland's performance was enough. His exuberance and energy of being Spider-Man was enough to get me in the theater. You don't have to lie to me. Now, Rogue One was just lying. It's a complete lie. The trailer sets up a movie that is not on the screen. That's BS. That's not wishing for a movie. That's being led down a path to a movie and then going, no, there were some reshoots and the movie's significantly different. Well, maybe you should put out a friggin' trailer that reflects the movie that you made. Oh my God. And what does that say? Like, I predicted that Justice League is going to tank. And it's going to tank to it's going to hit $150 million. And the studio's going to crow, and the pundits are going to do this and that. But if it doesn't make $500 million, it's a complete tank. $500 million domestic. It has to. It's a giant, lumbering, creaking movie with too many characters, a villain nobody's heard of, and that Zack Snyder dark, dank style. It's not going to do well. It's going to tank. So, Alien Covenant tanked. The Mummy tanked, and with it, all hope of Universal's stupid cinematic universe. They had the audacity to play a Universal Monsters Cinematic Universe trailer before The Mummy. Before the camera even rolled on movie 2. Are you guys out of your minds? That's the hunter promising a fresh kill before he's even gone out. That's ridiculous. Mummy tanked. There's 2 giant movies that tanked. The third one's going to be Justice League, in my opinion. The fourth one's going to be that Han Solo movie. And nobody wants a Han Solo movie more than me. But you know it's going to be the worst crap we've ever seen. But that's a Star Wars story for another episode. Because I didn't even get to Star Wars on my list, really. I really didn't. I had a little bit of a list here. I wrote down imitation and trends because the cinematic universe thing, it worked for Marvel, so everybody wants one. Universal wants one. DC wants one. Star Wars wants to continue and make all these movies that are connected. They got the plans, and there's Darth Vader, and it connects right into Star Wars 1977. Well, no, it doesn't. Yes, it does, Jeff, because it's the scene right before the... No. It doesn't because Darth Vader's not acting in any way like he did in the movie. You watch Star Wars. He's not swinging his lightsaber around like that. Give me a break. That's just ridiculous. That's wishful thinking. Star Wars Rebels introduced Ahsoka, which to me was mildly interesting because at some point, Anakin, her Jedi mentor, her master, has to kill her. Until somebody said, oh yeah, it's not Rebels, Clone Wars. Somebody said, oh no, it's not going to match up. It's a different timeline. Oh, I see. How convenient. We're changing the rules midstream. Good for you. Well, that's not how writing works, man. You can't decide halfway through that this prequel to the movie now isn't a prequel. It's a different timeline. A different timeline where Anakin lives and doesn't become Darth Vader and Ahsoka lives? F you. You can't just change canon because the cartoon's doing well. You have to take the dinosaur route, Jim Henson's dinosaur route, and give the kids an ending that shocks them back to reality. At the end of Dinosaurs, they all die. At the end of Alf, he is cut up by the government. At the end of Star Wars Clone Wars, Anakin takes a blade to Ahsoka and then kneels before Palpatine and says, I'm ready to become Darth Vader. That's the story, folks. If you don't like it, don't watch. But you can't just change it because you feel like it. That's ridiculous. I know I sound completely mental. But story matters. Characters matter. They have to. Or just watch Pixels. If you don't care about story, just watch Pixels. Who cares, right? I'm sorry, trends. There's always been movie trends. This is how we'll end. The Marvel Cinematic Universe begets the DC Cinematic Universe, begets the Universal Cinematic Universe, which owes everything to the Star Wars Cinematic Universe, blah, 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 blah. And that's always been the case. Star Wars comes out in 1977, is a massive hit. The next 5 years, every other movie is some cheap knockoff space movie. E.T. comes out, becomes the #1 film of all time. For the next few years, there's a lot of movies about friendly aliens coming down. Starman, hey, the classic Mac and Me. Explorers. These are all movie trends, but at least they're all different. They're not just, carbon copies. They're not just like, well, that works for them, we'll do it for us. We're doing that. You're doing that? Yeah, all of our movies are going to be connected. Oh, cool. So we're going to do that. How do you do it? We'll just watch the movie, we'll do that thing, and then we'll put something after the credits, like you guys do. Oh, cool. So every movie-going experience is now the same. Hey, rock on, guys. And that's why, in the end, Spielberg and Lucas's prediction will come true. These movies will die a flaming death where nobody goes to see them. We've had enough. And they might be good movies. We won't know because we won't go see them. Because something on Netflix will be better. and nothing will be as good as Game of Thrones. And that's depressing, because Game of Thrones is going to end next year, and when rivals see quality like that, why don't they just make that? Rise up to it. Take that trend. And by that I mean solid storylines that pay off and end and then beget new storylines. And they make sense. And they don't come out of nowhere. And John Connor doesn't become a Terminator. Oy vey. I'm Jeff Tucker, and this is the cranky old man known as 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening? Welcome to 91 Reasons, a pop culture fueled rocket into the far reaches of nerd culture. Featuring your hosts, Jeff, Rachel, Luna, Austin, and Josie. It's Tucker time. Thanks for listening. By Gramthar's Hammer. We'll be back with another episode. Live long and prosper. May the force be with you. So say we all. Hey, hey, hey.